Welcome to the Inner Blueprint Podcast. I'm Sean Foyer, the Universal Mindset Disruptor. With over 20 years of turning blueprints into thriving home improvement businesses, I've learned that the strongest foundations start in your mind. Whether you're building a business or your own success, we're here to reshape how you think and face daily life and always remind you to enjoy the ride. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Inner Blueprint, the podcast designed specifically for the home improvement industry, but with its ripple effect helping everybody and anybody that would like to think better thoughts and get better results in their life. I am your co-host, Sean Foyer, here today with a beautiful, amazing
Caitlin Foyer.
All right. How you been?
Oh my goodness. I feel like it's been forever since we were back in the studio.
I know, it's been a while.
Very happy.
I haven't seen you since like this morning too.
At least.
You look fabulous today.
Thank you. What are we going to talk about today, Foy?
Yeah, I don't know. What do you want to talk about?
Oh my gosh, we keep going through this. You just need to make a decision.
On what?
On what we're, like a decision.
Well, do we have any, we don't have a topic for today?
Sean, we've talked about this.
Oh my gosh.
This was up to you. I said, you decide.
All right, well, let's do this. I'm going to share a quote from my mentor, Bob Proctor.
Okay.
There is a single mental move you can make, which in a millisecond will solve enormous problems for you. It has the potential to improve almost any personal or business situation you will ever encounter. And it could literally propel you down the path to incredible success. We have a name for this magic mental activity. It's called decision.
Oh, there it is.
Bob Proctor. So we made a decision to talk about the power of decision. And this is a big one.
I feel like decision really does. And it's so big because in our lives, so much chaos happens, right? Especially in our lives, right? But in anyone listening, there's a lot of chaos in your life. To get clarity, what's the first step you need to take?
You have to make a decision.
That's literally it.
And the more options you have or the more possibilities there might be, sometimes the harder it is to simply make a decision.
Well, it's like the decisions that we've been avoiding, they are so costly, right? It takes up your energy mentally, physically, emotionally, right? It costs you more than it's worth than to just make a decision.
Well, and I think for a lot of us, myself included, it comes down to a knowing-doing gap. A lot of times you will have the information that you should make a decision on your health and wellness. Use that for an example. Most people at some level know what they need to do to maintain health, exercise a little bit, eat better food, sleep enough. And we have this knowing, but without the decision, I'm going to get in better shape or I'm going to take better care of myself, we don't do it. And for a lot of us, we wait too long.
Yeah.
And the decision gets made after it's too late, after you get a prognosis from a physician that, you absolutely have to make this change now, or it's too late. Now you have to be medicated for it. So, yeah.
Well, it's very true, too. And so many people, it's so hard to make a decision because you're like, I don't want to make the wrong decision. Or they expect like some kind of clarity or like perfect answer to present itself before they make the decision. But what we found and we know is true is that clarity doesn't come until you make the decision.
Yeah. And an example I heard years ago is with travel. When you decide to take a vacation and you're going to travel somewhere that's going to require a flight, the first thing you do usually is book the flight, right?
Yeah.
And then once you've made the decision, it could be 6 months out, it could be a year out, you're going there. You literally have a flight, and unless something drastically changes, that trip is happening because you made a decision and you booked a flight. And I think so many times in life, in business, in relationships, in our health and wellness, we get stuck in indecision. And indecision, nothing changes. Nothing changes.
Well, and this is the big one in our program that we teach, the Inner Blueprint, is people have to start with a decision. Module 1 in our program is, what do you want? What do you want? You ask anybody on the street, hey, what do you want? They'll look at you and say, what do you mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean, what do I want?
And most people are stuck in thinking about what they think they can have, which is already in their life at some level and doesn't require the power of a new decision.
Yeah. When I think of like a big decision, some decisions are easy, right? Some aren't. Some decisions may seem hard, even though they're really simple, like what to eat. We all know I struggle with choosing what to eat, right? It's something that I work on. A lot of times I just won't choose and then I won't eat and then I get angry or hangry and I'm just shut down, it's not a good thing, right? And so this is something that I tell clients that I'm working with is like, they're like, I don't know, I'm just not very decisive. I'm like, okay, why? And we go, we'll break down the psychology of that in a moment. But I think, I'll say something simple like, you know what? Tonight when you get home, I want you to decide what you're gonna have for lunch tomorrow. Like, that's all I want you to do. Just make that decision, what you're gonna have for lunch. Don't go into the office and be like, hey guys, what does everybody want for lunch? Oh, I'm good with whatever. Like, be like, hey guys, I want pizza today. We're getting this. Everybody down? They're like, oh, I can do that. That's one small decision I can make, and that's gonna make a difference, right? Because sometimes it gets hard to make big decisions if we're scared to make small decisions. Like, a big decision for me was coming to work for you.
Yeah.
That was a huge decision for me. I watched my dad go through, terrible times of relationships by having women become involved in the business. And it wasn't just for him, but for the woman too. Like, gosh, Julie, we know she did way better when she wasn't in the business with my dad anymore, significantly better, right? And I just thought, oh my gosh, like, I actually love you. I want to be around you all the time. We can't work together. There's no way that's ever going to work. And I don't ever want to be dependent on you for a paycheck. Like, I make my own money. I do my own things. And, at the time I was doing 3 other things and thought, I'm fine. I'll be great. And, it took some convincing, maybe a tantrum or two, to get me to make that decision. And, it's one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. We get to do what we want, when we want, with who we want. We're making a difference. Like, I thought I was making a difference before in the different careers I was holding at the time, but now it's so intentional. And that decision was a very hard one for me. It was very layered. It was riddled with fear of failure, fear of, abandonment, fear of trusting, right? And so many levels that it was really hard for me. And now I laugh that was hard for me.
It's funny because we went through the process, and it's a lot of the steps that we take in our blueprint from taking an idea, what do you want, to a new belief of what's actually possible for you. And for you, I didn't have those paradigms, right? I had never seen business relationships in a personal relationship mixed together, and I'd wanted it for a long time. I had, my father was a business partner. Totally different dynamic. Very different. Your
mom didn't work in the business, right?
No. I mean, she did a little bit. She'd come in and do some administrative work once in a while, but never a partnership like I was talking about with you. And I had gone alone for a while, and I just knew I needed somebody. And the type of work we do, I just, and if we think about, okay, how did we make the decision? Well, we did a pro and con, and we went through all the pros of us working together, what values you brought to the business, how it would work with our personal schedule, what I thought would be possible. And then when we went to the cons, the only thing that came up were just like any paradigm. They were reasons from the past, reasons from other people, and reasons at the end of the day that weren't true and weren't yours. And when we cleared the negative and say, okay, what's the worst thing that could happen? Okay, well, that's not probably true for us. That's not probably true. That's not probably true. And then we took, and I had literally another tool I used before I even asked you was I had written, I want a co-pilot. I want somebody to run this business with me. And here are the things that I'm looking for. And one of them was food.
Make sure you eat.
But when you looked at that and you saw all the pluses and you saw that the few negatives weren't really true, is that when it kind of allowed you to step forward and say, yes, I can make this decision, even though it scares me a little bit?
Absolutely. And I'm such a positive person. I look at every positive outcome, right? Because every decision is going to be filled with what ifs, right? And I was so focused at the time on the negative what ifs. What if this doesn't work out? What if we break up? What if he doesn't want me to work for him anymore and I have to re-enter the work field that I have this gap in things where it's like I'm not really in sales, but I'm still in marketing. Is that still going to be useful? I don't like to have gaps, not even gaps, but like small amounts, like small periods of employment. Yeah. Like there were so many, I was just focusing on the negative what ifs. And when we made that pros and cons list, I'm like, you know what? I just need to go all in on the positive what ifs.
Yeah.
What if our business 10Xs because I came into it? Okay.
Yes.
What if I'm able to? Yes, which year over year the growth has been insane, more than any, I used to do this for companies. I would come into a company and say, all right, what's your goals? Where do you want to be at? And we would reverse engineer from there. But they were always based off, SMART goals, attainable goals, 10% growth, 20% growth, something of the sort. And we've doubled that year over year, no problem with just us. And it's so awesome because you think, that was a really, really big decision. Doesn't mean I didn't have any decisions after that. Think of how many decisions we've had within the business and my role in it since then.
Well, let's frame this episode into two parts. The first is right now we're talking about big decisions because that's where a lot of people get stuck. And, for me, looking back on my life, I had made the decision after quite a while of indecision to leave my family business, the only business I had really known as an adult. It was over 20 years. Everything in me was scared to death to make that decision. Went to the negative. What's the worst thing that could happen? And in a lot of cases, the worst did happen for a little while.
Yeah.
I had to face that. I had a 20-year relationship that just was not working no matter what either one of us tried to do, and had to make a decision there. In that same process, I had found a new position with a training company, Certified Contractors Network. Had been there for 5 years, was working, but wasn't really working for my bigger goal and where I wanted to go.
Yep.
I mean, in a period of 5 years, I made 3 powerful, life-changing decisions that I look back, and they're the best decisions I ever made. And they were me looking at what was showing up in my life and what I truly wanted, and there wasn't alignment there. And that's the other thing about decision is when you're making a big decision, you have to look for alignment, and alignment with you. Like, what are your goals? What are your values? What are your beliefs? And is this decision going to move you forward to it? And, big decisions are hard.
Yeah.
And I love coaching and teaching people because I've made some hard ones over the last few years, and you have as well. And both of us on the other side of powerful decisions, and not everybody's going to agree with you. When you make a powerful decision for you, you're not going to have everybody ingredients. You're going to be going against the grain a little bit.
Yep.
It's important to do, and it's important for you in your life to be able to make those big decisions to move the needle on where you want to go.
Well, you have to, because if not, you're sitting in indecision, right? There's either decision or there's indecision, which indecision, I truly believe, is a decision to stay where you are. It's a decision to stay stuck. But what it does is it drains you.
Because inside there's part of you that still knows you need to make a decision.
It just erodes your confidence, erodes your self-confidence. Like, I'm not capable of doing this. I guess the world just happens to me. I guess my life just happens to me. And it's all because you're afraid to make that decision, right? You're so committed to that indecision and staying stuck that, people hit fear firewalls. I hit fear firewalls. I try to hit a fear firewall daily. I do.
Yeah.
Because every time that I do, I prove to myself and I reprogram my brain, my neural pathways, everything. I'm retraining it.
For success,
literally. That's all that it comes down to is make a decision, right? And hit that fear firewall of, okay, yeah, these things could get uncomfortable or not be good. And all of these great things can happen too. So I'm going to focus on those great things.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too. I come up with an analogy. You've heard me talk about it a lot, but so many times, whether it's in personal relationships, in business, or even in health and wellness, we get to a point where we want to make a decision and do something different. I call it the beautiful doors analogy, right?
Oh, yes.
And so you've got one foot in one door and it's still open, and you're thinking you should close it and open another one, but you're afraid to close it. So you decide to try to open the other door. And so now you've got one door halfway closed, one door starting to open. And so many people, this is indecision. I'm going to do this side hustle until it takes off. No, you're not. For most people, you can't divide your energy. In relationships, I don't know if I'm in this relationship or if I'm out. Getting caught in between is never a good situation. And so
it's not safe. It's like being in between two subway cars. If you had to go from one car to the next, you're good in this one, but maybe you don't want to be in that one anymore. You need to get to this one. There's more room, whatever it is, right? If you're stuck in that middle, that's a very dangerous place to be.
It is. And it might not, and this is very situational. I don't want to say you should just close the door on the old and try to open the new. There are instances where you should stop trying to open the new and stay where you are. And this is, again, very situational. But for me, in my relationships, I did that, right? I was like, okay, this is the door that's still open. I'm going to try and open it all the way and stay here. Mm-hmm. Even in my family business, I did everything I could. I had a lot of pressure, both internally and externally, that I needed to stay and work that out. And so I tried for a couple of years, and that door was closing on me no matter what I was doing. That's the realization I came to. But for me to move into the next, I literally, when I walked away from my family business, it was almost a year before I decided what I was going to do. And I went back down. I made some mini decisions. I've talked about, I went to open an Allstate insurance agency, went to Chicago, spent 10 days at Allstate University, came back, had this internal knowing this isn't it. And it was cool because all my little decisions, to the outside world, some people called me stupid and crazy. At Allstate, I learned how to train. Like I watched a 10-day training of two of the best trainers I've ever been a student in the class, and I took notes. And next thing you know, a few months later, I'm actually standing in front of a classroom at Certified Contractors, teaching a bunch of sales guys using things that I learned at this mini decision. And that's the other thing too, is along the way to a big decision, there are a lot of little micro decisions, and the process is the same. And let's talk about that, because a lot of people struggle, especially younger people, teenage daughters maybe.
Yeah.
I used to struggle with this once in a while. What am I going to wear today, right? What am I going to eat today?
I still struggle with that. I'll come down to you with like 3 outfits and be like, which one? You're like, they all look great. I'm like, will you make a decision for me? And you're like, make it yourself. And I'm like, God damn it.
And again, though, you got to think about, and this is a little bit different rabbit hole on this, but how much time are you wasting
in
on
that
indecision? I remember hearing years ago, Albert Einstein, one of the smartest humans to ever live, I think he had 5 shirts the same color. He wanted to be an efficient human being, so he removed it. And, I've had some of our clients make fun of me. Sean, do you own anything that's not black, white, or red?
Or branded, because I make sure you always are branded.
I don't. It's our company colors. It's our logo. I don't want to have to think about what I wear. And so I have a lot of options that are all about the same. I literally spend 2 seconds thinking about what I'm going to wear, which color hat, which color shirt.
I can attest to that.
3
Every
options.
morning, that guy is up, ready, and dressed before I'm even out of bed.
And I don't think about it because I have too many more important decisions to make in a day than what I'm going to wear. And you think about food, a lot of us default to fast food or a quick option. That's not the healthiest option. That might take a decision to get healthier. There's meal prep. For us, we almost always have at least some fresh ingredients that you can whip together a healthy snack. I default a lot to protein shakes because it doesn't take a lot of thinking.
Nope.
I can grab a pre-made out of the fridge, or I can throw one, whip it up in the blender in less than 2 minutes and have a delicious, healthy, meal in a few seconds. So you really have to think about the difference between big decisions that are going to move the needle and little decisions that literally become habits that will actually move the needle too.
Well, you have to think too, when it comes to a big decision, you have to think, is this decision aligned with who I am? Is it aligned with where I'm going? Is it aligned with my inner blueprint? Does it match my core values? Right? That takes some of the fear out of it, because then you have belief that this is going to be the right decision because it is aligned, or the opposite way. Actually, this doesn't feel like an alignment. And that can sometimes be fear, right?
Yes.
But you have to really ask yourself and get honest. Is this aligned with where I'm going? Is this matched up with who I want to be, of the person I'm becoming, of the goals I'm going to achieve, of what I'm going to do in this world? Is this decision aligned? If it is, that's an easy decision. And then you can take it one step further if you need to break this down into these micro things. Is this going to matter in 3 minutes? Is this going to matter in 3 months? Is this going to matter in 3 years? Where is this decision going to hit me, right? If it's something like, what am I going to wear today? Is this going to matter in 3 minutes? Yes. Is it going to matter in 3 days? No. I probably won't even remember, right?
Nobody else will remember.
What I eat for my next meal, is it going to matter in 3 minutes? Yeah, it is. I got to make that decision, but it's not going to matter in 3 days. Or, I mean, it could if we're eating a bunch of shit food. But it's something you really have to think of. As far as breaking that down, how long is this going to matter for?
Yeah.
Right. And is it going to, the bigger ones, we want to know, is this in alignment? With the smaller ones, is this going to matter?
And I think, too, making a decision without fear of failure, because so many times people get stuck in indecision because they're afraid they're going to fail or not. And I look for me, and a lot of these have to do with financial, but in business especially, a lot of business owners live in some kind of scarcity. And there's an investment they want to make in the business, whether it's a training, purchasing a new piece of equipment. And the only thing that's holding them back is scarcity, afraid of not being able to afford it, even if they can afford it now, not being able to afford it later. And you look in our business, for me, one of the first decisions I made once I started my consulting was to invest in Bob Proctor's training.
Yeah.
And at the time I was just getting started. It was like $35,000 to get started. Plus you had to pay for a trip to Toronto. Plus you had to pay for all these other things. And I was startup mode. I didn't necessarily have that money.
Yeah.
And I remember I got stuck in indecision, but luckily the mentor that brought me into his program, it was all about decision. And, one of the first modules that they talked about was the power of decision. And I remember making that decision, starting, and I couldn't even pay it all up front. I put $5,000 down. Once I made that decision, I was all in. I wasn't going to go back. And it gave me the buy-in
And confidence
to make it happen.
And
We've talked about before, along the way, deciding to move it from in-home to get in a separate office, deciding, I've got my sound bed that we bought for a retreat, and I was in scarcity. Knew it would be a good purchase, but wasn't really sure. The second I made the decision, I actually had a couple sales come in.
right away.
It's like the world matches you where you are. And if you're in fear and scarcity and don't make a decision that's good for you and your business, you stay there. And the second you invest, go all in, the reward always comes on the other side.
When you bring up such a good point is, again, people wait because they think I have to make the perfect decision. There's no such thing as a perfect decision. There's aligned or there's misaligned, right?
And if you make a decision in alignment and find out later it wasn't the right decision, you can always make another one. That's the other thing too. There's no finality to this. Most people, they get stuck in indecision, think they can only make it one time.
But that's not like, it's okay to make mistakes because mistakes are just information, right?
Yeah.
So even if you make a decision, it's not the best decision, right? Maybe it's a mistake. It's just information.
And I learn from every mistake I make.
Absolutely.
That's the thing we talk about, failure. There's no such thing as failure if you don't stop. You keep learning, trusting. And part of this too is confidence. When you've made some bad decisions, which we all have, and you've gotten your ass kicked, which I have, it didn't make me stop making decisions. It made me learn. It made me grow. It made me get better. And the next time I came to a similar decision, I didn't let the limits from the past hold me back. I let them actually educate me and strengthen me so I could make a better decision moving forward.
Yeah. And it is really crazy because, again, people get it's that fear of failure, right? Like if I make the decision, what if it's the wrong decision? Okay, at least you made a decision and you learned what not to do or maybe what didn't work and what did work. So now that next decision is going to be even easier because, again, you're training yourself that you can do these hard things, that you can make a decision, that you're the kind of person who decides, and that can be an affirmation. I'm a person who decides.
Well, and without the decision, when you're stuck in indecision, sometimes, most of the time, nothing changes. Mm-hmm. You need to get in better shape, but you don't make a decision. Nothing changes. And if anything, it gets a little worse. In a relationship, you need to make a decision, to have a conversation, to express yourself. You don't do it. Nothing changes. The business, you want to make more money as a sales rep. As the owner, you want the business to grow, but you're stuck in indecision. In indecision, nothing changes. And that's what, at a core level as humans, we fear change.
Yeah.
And here's something I say all the time to myself and to those that we coach and work with. Change creates movement. Movement creates friction. And so every time I make a decision, I realize it's going to create some change. I prepare for it mentally. That's going to mean some movement. That might mean a little bit of friction, but I don't push back on the friction because what happens when you have two things moving and rubbing against each other? You push against it, you get more friction. Mm-hmm. So making a decision, knowing there's going to be some change, preparing for the change mentally, and then removing resistance to the change as you go along. That's the way we move the needle.
Well, and there's, a 24-hour rule at the decision too. Commit to making the decision within 24 hours. And if not, that 24 hours passes, then you commit to moving on. Finding a different decision that needs to be made, right? Because we don't need to sit there and hold on to that forever. One thing that a lot of our business owners have run into in the last year is their sales systems.
Yeah.
What they've been doing isn't working. They've got however many other options. They're not making a decision on one, so things are staying the same, which is not good.
Yeah.
And so they're scared to make the wrong decision. It's like, no, just pick one, make the decision, and if that doesn't work, that's okay. Some things will, some things won't, and you can make another decision.
And it's funny too, though, because I've seen you talk about indecision. When you get stuck in good, and we've worked with a lot of companies that the sales are good, they're just not great, but they're good enough that you don't make a decision to do something different, and you stay in not very good for longer than you should. And we have seen, I've got some clients that I've worked with for over a decade that were looking for a sales system, and they decided 3 different times, and they went this direction, pushed it as far as they could, realized it wasn't the right one, shifted, picked another one, went as far as they could with it, decided. I've seen them change, 3 or 4 times until they found the one. We've got a couple clients recently that sales weren't working. They made a decision, went all in on a new system, and for right now, the new system's working better than the old one ever did.
Yes.
But it all came back to making a decision.
Yeah, and this could be even someone that works within your organization. Maybe they do their job, they're fine. you avoid them for some reason. Maybe they're not pleasant to be around, or what they're doing is working, but you need them to do more, but they can't be the one to do it. And so you just let it sit in indecision when really they're probably not the right person anymore.
Well, and the worst part about this situation is you've got an employee that probably doesn't want to be at your company, but they're afraid to make a decision because of the fear. You as the leader, owner, or manager know they're not a good fit. But so both of you are stuck in indecision, not creating very good for either one of you, and especially not for the customer.
Yeah.
It's powerful, to make a decision, whichever end of that spectrum you're on. If it's
Yeah.
not working for you, if it's not working for the company, it might be a decision to do something different.
Yeah. And different isn't bad.
No.
Different isn't bad. Different is great.
But one last rabbit hole for this episode is, why is different so hard for human beings?
It could have something to do with the fact that we're so insanely programmed that 95% of our day we're not in control of. Even though we think we are not in control of.
That's the thing. Even as you're trying to decide what to wear and what to eat, you're not deciding how you woke up, how you brushed your teeth, how you, once you made the decision, got dressed, left leg, then right, how you do your hair. I always do it this way with my razor, right? Like 95% of our day is programmed pattern. So when you think about it, not making a decision is letting your subconscious mind decide for you.
Yeah.
And for most of us, unless you've done a lot of conscious work on your subconscious, most of what's programmed into you isn't serving you, isn't even really yours, and for the most part isn't true for you.
Yeah. I mean, some things are great.
Some things
are great, right?
But for most people, there's a limiter put on what's in your 95% about time, about money, about you, about sales, about whatever it is. And if we're going along just running our 95%, for most people, that's not the best version of you. That's not the best version of your life. We've got to take a look at, and again, if you wanted to change your 95%, if you want to change the way you believe about money, about self, about relationship, about time, guess what it takes? A decision. You have to make a decision. I deserve to make more money. That's a decision. I deserve to get in the best shape of my life. That's a decision. I deserve to love myself more than I ever have and have better loving relationships all around me. That starts with a decision. Everything I look, and a little gratitude to you, Miss Caitlin, and to our beautiful life that we've created. It all started with me making a decision that, and I now work with what I call the trifecta: better finances, better health and wellness, and better relationship with self. And I decided that I deserved more in those three areas. And I took accountability and responsibility that if I wanted more, if I deserved more in those areas, besides making a decision, I had to decide it was up to me. It was up to me. It's not up to anybody else. If you're stuck right now, if you're not getting the results you deserve, if you're not living life to the fullest, you got to make a decision to change that. But you have to take accountability and responsibility. This starts with you. Nobody's coming to save you.
Nope.
I waited for a while. Nobody comes. When you're spinning out and your finances are a mess and you're not feeling good and you're kind of feeling all alone and isolated, nobody is coming to save you. You have to save yourself. And that starts with a decision.
Yeah.
And if you're doing better than I just described, and your money's pretty good, and your health and wellness is okay, your relationships are doing all right, but somewhere deep inside you deserve a little bit more, that starts with you. That starts with a decision. That's what it's all about. And, if you can't tell, I'm a little bit passionate. It's because I lived for too long letting the decisions of other people, letting things that I couldn't control at some level control me. Mm-hmm. And that led me to one of the darkest places I've ever been. It wasn't good. Yep. It's not good. And you have to make a decision. And, one of the things that we talk about so often, I had to get there to make the decision for me, right? Yeah. Life had to push me to where I ended up feeling like I was in this hole or this corner that I couldn't get out of. Our mission within our blueprint, the work we do, is to find you listeners not in that dark hole. And if you are, reach out to us. We're here to help. Yeah. But if you're doing okay, but you deserve better, let this episode be a little nudge to say, you know what? Yeah, you're doing pretty good and you're living a pretty good life. But what if it could get a little bit better? What if just deciding that you deserve more out of life for yourself, for the people you love and care about most? What if that decision is all it's going to take to move the needle on you living your best life ever and truly enjoying the ride? That's what we want to inspire people.
Yeah, and there is psychology, there's programming behind people that are scared to make decisions, right? It could be like that good girl, good boy, persona of like, no, I'm just going to be nonchalant. I'm going to be easygoing. I'm go with the flow. So I don't need to make a decision. It's just whatever anybody else wants to do.
Or if you had really supportive, loving parents that wanted to help you and they made decisions for you. Mm-hmm. I mean, a lot of us get programmed by not having to make decisions. I think of people I love and care about that for their whole life struggle making decisions. It's because up until they were a young adult, they didn't have to make very many decisions. This is reminding me of a conversation that I actually heard with Bob Proctor talking about the way he raised his kids. He would not make a decision for them.
I love that.
If they came to him with options, he would talk through with them, but he would put back on them that they had to make a decision, so they learned how. And that's something for all of us as parents. If you're listening and you're a parent, not only learning to make better decisions for yourself, but are you assisting your children? A lot of work we do with the Inner Blueprint is helping young adults reprogram some negative things from childhood. And one of them is indecision.
Yes.
Like you can help the people you love and care about by coaching them. Even as a manager, if somebody comes to you, have them give you 3 options.
I was going to say, in the workplace, this is a perfect.
Yeah, and then ask them what they think is the best. Empower them to make decisions. If you're running around saying, gosh, this person just won't make a decision, maybe they don't know how. Maybe they weren't programmed to be good at making decisions. A lot of us aren't, but it's a powerful tool in moving the needle to success.
Yeah, I mean, a good way to do this for an employee, a child, someone, a friend, a partner that you feel like is really indecisive. When they come to you and ask your opinion, say, I believe and I fully trust you to make the best decision. And that Pygmalion affects them. It gives them the confidence to say, okay, like if I heard that, if I was really struggling with something and I came to you and I said, Sean, here are these options. I don't really know what to choose. And if you looked at me and simply just said, I believe that you're going to make the best decision, I have fully trust that you will. I'd be like, I'd probably get a little sassy for a second because let's be real, it's me. And then I'd go, yeah, you know what? You're right. I can, and I'm going to. And that doesn't make me difficult, or it doesn't make me bossy, and it doesn't make me too direct that I can make a decision for myself, right? And there's so many people that are afraid to because they don't want to come off as hard-headed or, too much or whatever that is. So let that go. And, if you've got a decision right now that you need to make 24 hours from this moment right now, set an alarm on your phone or a reminder on your phone for this time, 24 hours from now, that if you have not made that decision, to moving on. Commit to moving on at that point. Just let it go. We don't need to stay in a decision any longer. It's not, all it does is it's eroding your confidence. It's eroding your self-esteem. It's not good.
Yeah. I mean, if you're procrastinating something, it's because you don't really want to do it. And if
or you're scared.
Procrastination has happened for long enough, get rid of it. Just do something different.
Commit to moving on.
Yeah. Well, listeners, I would just ask you to reflect back as we've been talking about this. What's one thing right now that you should be doing, you should stop doing, you should do something different? A knowing doing gap, something deep down, you know what, I deserve better in my health and wellness. I deserve better in this situation. And what decision is it that is calling you right now? Think about that, ponder it, because for every single one of us, there's a couple, maybe just one, maybe 2 big decisions that if you make a decision, you're going to move the needle on living your best life ever, making more money than you've ever made, loving yourself more than you ever have, being in the best physical and mental shape. And again, we oversimplify for Inner Blueprint, but if you think about those 3 areas, almost every other area of life comes down to one of those 3 areas at some level. And the things that are holding you back in those 3 areas, and with the power of decision, you step into a new version, to a new possibility for you.
Yeah, it's really simple. It's not easy all the time, but it's very simple. So if you like this, make a decision. Hit subscribe right now. Pretty easy. Or send it to someone you know, right? Maybe you have someone in your life that you feel like they can never make a decision. Send this episode to them. Make the decision to share it.
And think about it, too. I mean, some people get caught up, I should share this with somebody. I don't know what they'll think. Well, maybe they'll think I think they're broken if they say shut that little noise that goes off in your head all the time. If you have an intuitive thought, I think this would be helpful. do it.
Just do it. Make the decision.
Just do it, right? Let's go. Let's bring that decision-making energy. And again, if you make the wrong decision, you can always make another decision later. You really can.
Yep. It's just information. The wrong decision is just showing you what doesn't work so you can get closer to what does work.
And just a disclaimer, obviously laws, rules, morality, integrity need to come into place when we're making our decision. You got to have a good foundation. And if that's something you need to work on, that's maybe some affirmation work. But yeah, within the constraints of, okay, we live in this physical world that has laws, rules, things that we have to obey while we're making these decisions. But yeah, in a more lighthearted way, yeah, if you deserve to get in better shape, do it. If you deserve a better relationship, start with you. Start loving yourself more than you ever have. And if you deserve to make more money, make a decision. It can be as simple as, I think I want to make this much more money, and come up with a new affirmation. That in itself is a decision.
Yeah.
And I've seen that decision move the needle on so many people now, I can't even keep track.
Pretty easy.
All right. Well, is that a wrap?
I think you made some really great decisions here, Mr. Foyer.
I don't know. Let me waffle on that a little bit and decide, should we
Well,
wrap
and
this
actually-
episode up, or should we keep talking? Our listeners going to want to hear more. Did they hear enough?
I will say one thing, though. Once you start getting really good at decision, whether that's affirming yourself, saying, I am someone who makes decisions confidently, or I am decisive. That's something you say to yourself every day. You get to this point where making decisions is actually quick, easy, and painless, right? And Sean and I live in a world where everything is either a hell yes, or we'll just say hell no for now, because we don't want to have to edit that out later. But truly, when it comes down to things, it's either a hell yes or it's a hell no. There's no in between for us. And it makes life exciting.
Once we say hell yes, we're all in. And once you go all in, just your energy of being all in can literally create miracles. When you decide to go, we've gone all in on our relationship with each other. It's not always easy. I'm not always an easy person to get along with, but she's all in, I'm all in, and we've created more in our relationship. Our business, we're all in.
All in.
It isn't about the money. It's about helping more people. It's about a global mission.
It's about the impact.
It's about the impact, and we're all in on that. And because of that, we see really good results. And for both of us, on our self-love, we've both, and a lot of people need to hear this. You need to go all in on loving you. You are enough. You've always have been. You always will be. And that sounds silly to some people, but just know that from somebody who looks successful on the outside but didn't know he was ever enough, and I've now worked with hundreds, if not thousands of people that even though they're doing pretty good at some level, they don't know that they're enough. Go all in. Make a decision to go all in on you, your self-love, your confidence. We've got other episodes. We've got cool material. It's one of the most important things you'll ever do is decide to go all in on you.
That's easy.
All right. I think that's a wrap. We'll make a decision here. That's enough talk about decision. We're going to make a decision. We're going to wrap this episode. I hope you make a decision to do a couple things. 1, hit the subscribe button. 2, share this with somebody it will impact. And 3, make one decision for you today that will move the needle to you making more money, getting in better shape, or loving yourself more, because that will help you enjoy the ride. Thanks for listening. Welcome to the Inner Blueprint Podcast. I'm Sean Foyer, the Universal Mindset Disruptor. With over 20 years of turning blueprints into thriving home improvement businesses, I've learned that the strongest foundations start in your mind. Whether you're building a business or your own success, we're here to reshape how you think and face daily life, and always remind you to enjoy the ride.